Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm from Jenny Card Designs. My YouTube channel contains content that is intended to share paper crafting, tutorials, and inspiration with all of you. I hope that you enjoy. In today's video, I'm going to show you a quick tip on ink blending and how to use a silicone mat to help you with your ink blending. So I bought this extra large baking mat from Amazon and I paid about $20 Canadian for it. And now what I found is that the mat is a little bit too large. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by cutting it. I cut the first part off screen and then I thought maybe this might be a good idea to share with all of you. So I'm cutting the second part on screen here for you now. So basically what I've done is I've taken the sheet and I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. So I'm using my craft knife to get a nice straight edge, and I'm measuring too to make sure that all 4 pieces are going to be the same. Now, the best part about having 4 pieces is that if I make a mess on one piece, I can just set it aside and pick up another piece and continue on with whatever messy medium that I'm working with, or watercoloring or ink blending and so on. Then I have 4 pieces. At the end of my crafting session, I can take all of my 4 pieces of silicone and throw them in the sink and give them a good wash, and then let them dry and then roll them up for later use. So on screen here, you're watching me just trim down this silicone mat using my knife and a metal ruler, and I'm cutting on my Tim Holtz glass mat. Now you can cut on your glass mat or you can cut on a self-healing cutting mat, but I find that the glass mat kind of holds the silicone baking mat in place so it doesn't shift or move around because it's got like a sticky back sort of to it. Sometimes it collects my hair and other things, so that's why washing it off in the sink is a good tip later on once you're done using it, and then you can roll it up and put it away for next time. Okay, so we've got all 4 pieces cut out here. And these are a good size. They're fairly large. The mat measures about 11 inches by 9.5 inches, so it's a good size mat. So with this back, it's got a sticky adhesive sort of on it, and you can just stick it down to your surface to make sure it's nice and flat. And then we're going to ink blend. I'm pulling in some Tailored Expressions blender brushes. Now there was a little bit of something on here, so I just used my bottle of water and just spray my mat down and just use a microfiber cloth to wipe it off. So this will pull off any dust or lint or hair that might be stuck to it. So I'm just going to stick my cardstock down and I just want to press out any air bubbles that might be behind it to make sure that I get smooth ink blending. So let's talk a little bit about why I'm using the silicone baking mat. The 3 best things about this mat is, number 1 is easy cleanup. Number 2, minimal shifting with your cardstock. You don't really have to hold the cardstock down and your fingers won't get inky prints on them. And number 3, the ink that sits on top of the silicone baking mat is reusable, so we can go back in and grab that and reapply that to our cardstock. So I'm going in with my second color, and I found that the cardstock that I used here was a little splotchy. I wasn't getting very good results. It wasn't blending very well, so I struggled a little bit with that. I think this was 120-pound cardstock. It looks like it's fairly dry and it's really absorbing that ink in. So there's no time for the ink to blend. So I would suggest using a better cardstock like a Nina or the Genia K Designs, because they have sort of a coating on top and they're better for blending. This cardstock, I'm not sure. I think this is the Accent Opaque Digital, and I normally use this just for my card bases and then use a panel and pop up whatever type of design that I have on top of the card base. So just a quick tip there, don't use dry cardstock, otherwise you won't get very good ink blending. And then this panel's all done. So I'm just going to take my spray bottle here, and I've just got some clean water in my spray bottle, and I'll spray down my mat and use my microfiber cloth to wipe it up. Now, just a note here, the silicone mat will stain. It won't stay perfectly white. So, you can buy the mats in a different colors that you don't really have to worry about seeing those stains. But, a stained mat is a loved mat. It's not a big deal. And if you really don't like those stains, then you can always use a stamp cleaner and just spray the stamp cleaner on it. It'll help clean it up a little bit. Just get some of that leftover ink. So we're going to move on to a second panel. And for this one, I'm going to use a sponge dauber. I have a Lawn Fawn Peacock ink pad, and I'm going to use a sponge dauber. And I'm just going to ink up this panel with my sponge dauber that's kind of falling apart. My sponge dauber is shedding little bits and pieces all over my cardstock. At the end of this project, I'm going to go ahead and toss this out. But just for the purposes of this video, I'm just showing you how easy it is to sort of apply the ink without having to worry about the cardstock shifting too much and sticking your fingers in the ink. So that you get a nice blend here as well. And this looks good. Here is the finished panel, all inked up, looking pretty. And same idea for the cleanup. First I'm going to shake off my sponge dauber leftovers and spray down my panel. Now you'll notice that water-based dye inks clean up better off this mat. If you can see where I sprayed it, it kind of starts to pick up that ink, whereas hybrid inks will probably stain more. Once I realized this was a water-based ink, I had to take my spray bottle and spray the panel to get some of that water reactant on my panel to make a fun background. And I'm going to save that for a project that I have in mind for later on. And let's move on to another ink blending. So now I'm going to use the Ranger ink blending tools, and I'm going to grab some oxide inks. I've got Squeezed Lemonade, Picked Raspberry, and Twisted Citron. They're a beautiful color combination, so fun. So again, same thing, I'm just inking up my panel, and I think I kind of applied the ink backwards, and I should have not mixed the pink with the green because we get almost brown, and I wasn't a big fan of the brown. If you mix it with the yellow, it's nicer. Maybe next time. Okay, all done. This panel's complete. For my oxide inks, I store my sponges on top of my Distress Oxide ink pads because I found that when I stored them underneath, when I slipped them into my ink storage container, that it was making an inky mess inside of my ink storage. So since I have a little bit of space on top in between my ink pad storage, I was able to put my sponges on top and avoid that inky mess, so then I don't pull my ink pad out and get ink all over my desktop and so on. So that's the reason why my inky foams sit on top of my Distress Oxide inks, in case you were wondering. I want to show you one more quick project here. These are also great for ink smushing. So you can squish down your ink pad onto the silicone mat, spray it with some water, and then tap your paper into the ink and get a great ink smushed background. And we'll add in some of our other panels to pick up that ink so none of that goes to waste. And we'll get this all cleaned up. Another great thing about the silicone baking mat is that you can heat emboss on it. I'm holding my heat gun over top of my panel until it's completely dry, and then when I check the silicone baking mat behind it, it resists the heat 100%. It doesn't even get warm. So no melting, no warping, no weird stuff happening. A completely 100% intact silicone mat. And then when I store them, I'm going to take them all together and roll them up and grab a piece of washi tape and tape it together. So I've got this extra large washi tape, and I'm going to take my silicone mats with the sticky side in and use my washi tape and tape them up. And then I'll stick this in my drawer, and there'll be a stack of clean craft mats ready to use whenever I need them. So I'm going to stop calling this a silicone baking mat, and I'm going to start calling it a silicone craft mat, because essentially that's what it is. Here's a look at the projects that we made today, a fun ink blending. And that's it for today's video. Thanks so much for stopping by to spend a little bit of your time with me here today. Coming up on screen are a few videos that I think you may enjoy. I hope that you would consider clicking that subscribe button if you like the content here today. So thanks so much, have a lovely day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!